Fear the Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 11, Pablo and Jessica. I enjoy getting to see more of the hotel. I actually really like that as a, just in general as a location. I don't know how long they're going to actually end up staying there, but I actually like it. I think it's a cool location that they have for the show. I think it lends itself to a lot of different opportunities. Like, we got to see kind of the beachfront of the hotel, and we actually got to see like a full outside view of like the entire hotel, because they've always done like a lot of close-up stuff, and it's like, okay, well, they're clearly here, and you know they're next to the hotel or something. But we got to look at the entire thing when they were on the beach, which I thought was pretty nice. We get to see like the pier and kind of see them lead the zombies through not only like a hallway, but like the outside of it through a third different section, and they all kind of come together at the end. But I thought it was cool. I like the characters that they have there. Who knows how this stuff is really going to play out, because they have Madison and Strand, and they kind of talk with the group, and it's like, hey, this is what we want to do. We know that you don't really like these two people, you know, because they kind of locked your family up. And the mother, U.S. Strand mentions, like, the mother, she's still running off of grief, and, you know, she even says, like, you know, that woman killed my daughter and stuff, which she's totally wrong about, because they didn't even lock the door until after her husband bit her daughter, so that was super unfair of her to say. But at the same time, they haven't even left. They hadn't left since the outbreak happened, so they might think there's still a cure out there. I don't know. I don't know really what they think. It's been a while. So I don't know what they really think. So it's kind of like she might actually still think that that's true. Like there was possibly some way to save her daughter or something, but there was not. So I kind of like that idea. Like, we don't really know where these people's mentality are. Like, Madison even says, like, you guys haven't even left this hotel. We've been out there. You know, like, we know how things are. And, like, you know, we found this place. Someone else will find this place. And fortunately for you, we actually have kind of the same mindset. This isn't some takeover. This is like, we want to work together with you guys and clear this place out and fortify it and protect it for ourselves. And you know, like the guy says, like, there's nothing here, like, there's no point, you know, basically, like, there's no point in really doing all this work. And he really doesn't understand. Like, they live in, like, a hotel, like, and the rooms still look nice, actually. It's not like, you know, it's been 80 years and all the rooms look like a motel, you know, room. So, it's kind of funny, like, just that perspective, you know, like, they've been there this whole time, and they're just like, man, there's nothing here, like, we're running out of food, there's nothing else to scavenge, it sucks here. And then, you know, you go back through the series, and it's like, man, they've been out there, you know, we still have people out there with Travis and Chris, and, you know, Nick is kind of doing okay, but, you know, where he is, where none of them are, it's not, you know, like, they might be on a farm or in, like, this mini little village camp that's been set up. But they aren't living, you know, the high life, and you know, literally the high life inside of this hotel, which has so many different advantages to it. With being up, you know, really high up, they have a great vantage point. They can look around and see what's in the area. Big ships come about. If the Abigail happens to come along, if that random truck happens to come along, apparently they can't keep a vehicle now. Like, I love that when they, you know, we get like the flashback of Madison and Strand. They run outside and it's like, oh, they took the truck, and I'm like, wow, they can't keep any vehicles all of a sudden. But, you know, I just like that perspective thing where it's like, you know, you guys haven't been out there. It's friggin' nuts. Like, this place is absolutely amazing. So they team up, and, you know, basically everyone survives. And I kind of like that as well. I thought everything kind of went good. We see how, you know, everyone kind of met up with each other with Madison and Strand and how they ended up surviving. I was super wrong. I thought for sure, I mentioned in the last review, I thought they were in a restroom based on, like, it was like the patterns on the wall. I thought for sure they ran into like a restroom, but they weren't. It was just a different hallway. I was like, oh, they were just in a different section of a hallway. I thought it was a restroom. But that made me laugh when I realized. I was like, oh, I was totally wrong. I thought, like, it was seriously the patterns on the wall. I was like, oh, this is a restroom. And that's the only reason I thought it was a restroom. But you know, they all escape, and they, you know, they team up with the people, and Madison realizes they don't even have to deal with actually taking out all the zombies going all the way through. They can go on the pier and then hop off because it's so deep, which honestly, like, I know why she said that. You know, it's riptide, and also I would assume it's still fairly deep, because they kind of did the thing where she was walking And it seemed like that was to show like, oh, this is where it kind of drops off a little bit as well. But with them being zombies, I was kind of thinking like I understand the plan is that it's Riptide, like she was barely able to stand up, but I'm like these are also like basically immortal creatures at this point. Dumping them in the water, it probably would get rid of some of them for sure, but it would also be a huge issue because they won't die. They can't, they won't drown. They'll just be in there, and then eventually they will get like pushed towards, the water. So I don't know how that's really going to play out because there were a ton of them at some point, and even if they do come up, maybe that's another part of it. If they do come back, it's not going to be like all of them all at once. It would probably be like a couple at a time, if that really. So they'd still have that defense that they could set up for themselves, and I'm sure they'd have more than enough time before that actually did come into play. But dropping them in the water, I was like, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, normally when you make it pure, the water is actually fairly deep. Once there isn't sand under it, it does tend to be like super deep, like right off of that. So maybe that would be a big help to them. Plus, they did like just plummet straight into the water, so they basically all just dived and they instantly just go down a couple feet. But I love the way they did that. They had the whole plan. They had a good scene with Alicia and Madison where Alicia talks about going into the bar and seeing the woman with the hair and stuff. I thought that was a nice scene, and she was freaking out like that's why she wanted to do the mission, because she didn't want to lose her mom or have that feeling again. But everything works out fine. They get her on the boat. They get back to shore, and everything works out. So, they just have to do a little bit of fortification. And then on Nick's side of things, he's kind of making himself a bit more useful. He's kind of cutting the oxy with powdered milk, I believe it was. And so he's making them look exactly the same and everything. And they kind of skip over all that, but it does end up working out fine. And then I still don't remember either of the people's names because I feel like they don't actually say their names in the show. That's how I normally remember it, because they'll say someone's name a bunch, and it's like I feel like they didn't say their names. They said it like twice for sure, at least once for the guy, and they may have said it once for the girl as well. But I'm still trying to learn their names. But we find out that the woman actually lost her brother, or they at least found her brother, and he's in like bits and pieces, as the one guy said. So they have that conversation between her and Nick, and they have their little hug, and I'm like, they seem to be getting a little close, and things go through, and they have they have like the soccer game and stuff before that, and then we have the ending where they actually end up making out, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes, because relationships in these shows can be good, but that's also super dangerous because of just the attachment. Like, that's just the way it is. It's super dangerous to have that attachment. So I'm not exactly sure how they're going to be playing that, how things are going to work, if they'll be better as a team or worse as a team, because all they'll be thinking about is, I don't want the person I really care about to die. So we'll have to just wait and see. But admittedly, I was a little surprised by the way they did it, because she's about to leave and everything, and it was like all he did was say like, oh, he mentioned you like to test me, or you like to test people, so, and that you were testing me. And then she just turned around and started kissing him. I was like, that's all it took? That was the final test, was to ask if you were being tested? So that was a little weird to me, the way that it actually happened. But I was like, alright. I mean, they made it clear that they were going to get close. I just figured it wouldn't be at the actual end of this episode. And then he just says, you were testing me, and then she made it like, you passed the test. So I thought that was a little weird, the way that it all played out. But I still enjoyed that side of the story, not only because it shows how much Nick has actually embedded himself into this community now, and he's been given like the home and everything, but we also, and I was glad they didn't hold this off forever, but we find out about like the leader of this community and exactly what happened to him. And it does seem to be pretty much exactly what he said, is that, hey, he was bit, but just nothing happened. So I don't know what the plan is for that. Maybe he'll just end up dying off, and it's like, oh, that was possibly the hope for a cure, and he died. So I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen. I thought for sure, they didn't even have Nick say it, but I was thinking when the guy was telling the story, like, this kid, was on some sort of crazy drug. People thought that he was infected. And so they kind of, they were killing him and stuff, and so, or, the zombies and stuff were killing him. And he goes in, and he gets bit, and the first thing I thought was, well, maybe it was the kid. Maybe he just was losing his effing mind, and he bit him, and that's why he didn't die. But they'd probably know. After thinking about it, I was like, they'd probably know if it was actually a zombie or if it was, just this kid, that bit him or not. But it was very interesting. It was just like, that's what happened. He was bitten, and he healed. Just like, just the way it seems, that's exactly how it was. At least based on his story. Could be fake, but I don't know why they would, need to lie about that unless there's some super crazy mystery coming up. But it was interesting. It was like, okay, they have this sort of idea of a cure, and we don't really know exactly what's going to happen. So, I don't know. I assume that the guy's going to die at some point. It may even be because of this other group. Who knows? But I did enjoy this episode. I like both sides of the story. I feel like there's a lot of like character building stuff in this. And, like, they had a great. I love the ending with Strand, because he was kind of just he was kind of just calm and saying nothing the whole episode. And then he had his moment at the end when he goes and talks to the husband, which is Pablo and Jessica. And I love that ending moment. I was like, this is a really great scene, and Strand kind of deals with his own emotion, because he, and that's probably why he wasn't saying much really, was because he knew where both those people were in that room. It's like, this woman lost her daughter, and then this guy lost his wife, who he married, like, in that moment. And it just made a lot of sense. It all kind of came together at the end, and he was like, let me help you. And he talks about how the hotel isn't home for him. Like, he had a home, and he buried the man that he loved. And I was like, I thought he was going to actually say, like, I'll help you build this, and then I'll take off. And I was glad he didn't say that, because I kind of hate when they do that in shows. But the way they ended it, I was like, wow, it was just a great ending. I love the ending, and he's just talking with the guy, and he's like, I know how that feels, and eventually, like, you kind of have to do this, and you won't be you'll be a different part of you, a part that you don't really know yet, or a different version of you that hasn't come yet. And I like that. I thought it was a really good speech from him, and just the back and forth in general I thought was really well done. And Strand is actually crying. Of course, Pablo himself is upset, and Strand's just like, let me help you. Like, let me help you become the next part of yourself, and help you get to that point where you start to think of other things. You start to think of a different part of you, and you start seeing things in a different way. You become something else. And I just love the way that they ended that episode. I thought it was really well done. It was good for Pablo, but it was clearly good for Strand as well, because he actually was able to talk with someone and kind of get that part of him out. Like, because he doesn't really show that sort of emotion. He might show anger, like when he was on the boat, like, this is my boat sort of deal. But it was very interesting. I really enjoyed that ending. I love the way they did that, and it kind of came full circle as far as the name goes, because they really didn't have that much to do with it. Pablo did, because he's kind of like the leader of the people, I guess. It's like, I lost my wife, so I'm the leader. And obviously the mom was, too upset to kind of deal with all the extra crap, so Pablo kind of takes over. But I love the way they ended it, actually. I thought it was a great ending, and it just kind of complemented some of the other stuff that we got to see throughout this episode. And I am excited to see where they go with this hotel. I don't know if it'll even last till the end of this season. Who knows? But I'm excited about that. Since everyone's so far apart, it's hard to tell when they'll eventually get back together. But I feel like with everything that's happening with Travis and Chris, I don't know what to expect. Because if they do leave that farm, but they stay with those guys, like something bad happens or whatever, they just kill all the chickens. If they get to that hotel, what's going to happen? Because those guys are just a-holes, clearly. And Chris doesn't really even want to be around the people that he was once with Madison and Alicia and Nick and everybody else. So I just don't know what's going to happen there. Also, this just popped into my head. I didn't even think about this. We still don't know what the heck happened to Ophelia. Unless I missed something and just her dead body was just somewhere in one of these last 2 episodes, still nothing about her character. So she's just vanished. Like, she is gone. She's probably the one who actually did take the truck. But she's just gone. Like, we still don't know what the heck happened to her, and like I said, I assume that she could have easily left the hotel before those zombies ended up getting to the door, to the room that Alicia was actually in. But she's just gone, and they've done a bunch of walking around and clearing out the rooms and stuff. I would assume they would have found her if she was still there. So I'm guessing she did take the truck, and who knows what's going to happen. I don't know if she'll be the focus of. I think I'm only one episode behind now, so the next, or the most recent episode. Who knows? I don't know if she's in that one or not, but I just noticed, like, man, she's gone. She's still just invisible at this point. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. I don't, still hard to tell. She'll be in there at some point. Her dad may or may not still be in there. I'm still wondering if he actually did die. That was the whole thing. Like, did he actually die? Did he escape? Because some people point out, like, oh, there was like a manhole cover in there. He could have possibly actually survived, that and gone underground. So I don't know. They're both invisible at this point. They're out there somewhere. We'll have to see what happens. But I am excited to see where they take things. I really enjoyed this episode, like I said. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I gotta ask, how long you guys think this hotel is actually going to be a part of the show? Because they've kind of done it for a while. My phone keeps going off. I don't know if you can hear the vibrations, but I can hear it. So I'm sure the camera's picking it up. But I want to know how long you guys think this hotel is really going to last as a part of the series. I'm sure it won't be the entire series, of course, but I like to think it'll last beyond this season, especially with this being the second half of the season. I don't think they'll get to the hotel, fortify the hotel, and lose the hotel, by the end of this season. I'm sure it'll be at least, and maybe because of how they have everyone split up, it could actually survive for quite a while, because we only have a couple of characters there. It's not the entire group. So we still have two other, stories. We have Nick in his village, and then we have Chris and Travis kind of on the road, possibly. I'm sure they won't stay at the farm the whole time. So we still have a bunch of other stuff to look forward to. So it's a much easier way to keep it around. It's not like the regular series where all the main characters are always in one location, and then it's like, alright, well, if everybody's here, there's nothing to look at. So it could last much longer than it would in like the normal series, I think. So I am excited to see what they do with that. Like I said, want to know how long you guys think it'll last. I think it'll last at least a full season, since it kind of started up in the second half of this season. I think it'll at least go through the first half of season 3. And then maybe it'll get destroyed. Or maybe they'll just leave something else random or better, somehow better than a fortified hotel will come up. Probably something worse to destroy it, most likely. But that's just kind of how I feel. Want to know how long you guys think it'll last. And of course, what you guys thought about the episode in general. So please comment below, let me know. And of course, thanks for watching.